I think I'll come to you, George. This is George Clarke, who's another of the ambassadors on this platform this morning. I think you're the ambassador for the Prince's Foundation for the Built Environment. And clearly you have some real expertise in this. If I've got this right, you are also currently working on a BBC documentary on...
Channel 4.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologise, Channel 4. Channel 4 documentary on the sort of 350,000, particularly focused on the 350,000 long-term empty homes, is that right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously not the infrastructure, very related. What do you think we really need to do to get both the housing and the infrastructure of the cities and towns into better shape?
I think the first thing that needs to happen is we need to stop the kind of scandalous waste that's happened in the housing system in the last 10 years. The urban renewal programmes that have been happening over the last 12 years, allegedly, failed. And we created an astonishing number of empty properties when we should have been bringing in new built properties. Financially, it just didn't stack up. We have 350,000 empty homes across Britain. I mean, they're permanent empties as well. At any one time, we have nearly 1 million empty properties, but it's the 350,000 permanent empties that just shock me. And what I've seen on a very personal level is how empty homes literally wreck communities and wreck lives and bring down the image of any area. That has a massive knock-on effect in terms of kids and how they feel in their society, on their education, on their stability at home. And I think that scandal, I mean, that really has to stop. If you think we're at the lowest level of house building since the 1920s, it's an industry that's really struggling. Apprenticeship schemes are really struggling for kids who want to be joiners, electricians, and be hands-on. So I think the first thing I would say is that we need to get people back into those 350,000 homes, which are doing absolutely nothing. You cannot be greener and more sustainable than reuse and recycle an existing building. And just talking about kind of infrastructure, I mean, you're very lucky that you're in an area where lots of homes being built. I am pro-development. You know, we have to... The only way that we're going to get house prices down is by raising the level of supply. It's that simple. And if we reuse our 350,000 empties, that's going to currently deal with about 3 years of existing supply. And if we're going to do new development, we've got to do really good, sustainable development. It's not about urban sprawl. It's about maximising the spaces in our cities. It was the first time last year, actually, in the global population that it swung that the majority live in cities rather than the countryside. It just tipped last year to 51% of people living in cities. And we have to build on that. And we have to do it in a very clever but affordable and sustainable way.
Which is one of the main thrusts of our present work, and I will be coming forward with things in November, a huge package about housing. But you're highlighting a very, very important issue, which is how we get those empty homes renovated as part of that, rather than just treating them as written off.
Look, no disrespect to councils and housing associations, so I think all want to do a fantastic job. Housing is incredibly difficult. It's expensive. It's a tricky thing to do. You're caught up in planning policy. I know planning policy framework is a bit of a hot potato at the minute. And we're all looking into that, about how we can have localism and communities more involved in their housing needs. I think it's got to be about, we've got to be very inventive and creative. We're skint. You know, the country is broke. Yeah, we've got a fair bit of debt, and if we're going to build housing, and we're going to build affordable housing, we've got to be really creative about how we do that. And I think it's less red tape, it's less bureaucracy, it's less planning, if I'm honest. There's too much planning in this country. You know, I've been working in the architecture and building game since I was a kid. My grandfathers were builders, and they'll sit there and tell you today that planning is a bloody nightmare. You know, just to try and... It is. It takes too long. It takes too long, and I know it's got to be sustainable, and it's got to be well considered. And I think the biggest challenge when it comes to housing development, particularly in communities, is how you balance localism with NIMBYism. Because localism should speed up the process, but NIMBYism will slow it down.
Well, I didn't actually organise this, but that was a splendid party political broadcast. I think one is allowed a bit of that at a Conservative conference.
I'm just a humble architect.
So unlike politicians, you really carry credibility, so that's terrific. I just want to bring John Peake. Is John Peake around? And bring John Peake in at the very tail end of this, just to, I think is an interesting question which relates to that.
I'm astonished by the level of box-ticking that happens in our society. We seem to be obsessed by it. You know, it really is about people. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but it is. I mean, just to give you one story, I was filming up in Gateshead for the Empty Homes campaign, which comes out in December, by the way, so you better sign up for it. And there's a guy, ex-soldier, been in Afghanistan, been in Iraq, fantastic guy called Carl. Came back with obviously a lot of issues. He struggled when he got back, and he desperately needed our support. He has spent the last 5 years sleeping on his mum's sofa in the front living room because he can't get home. If you walk 5 minutes from his mum's house, you will see empties boarded up. And quite simply, when I took Carl to see them, he's just standing there saying, yeah, I can fit kitchens, I can tile bathrooms, I can do stuff. If they give me that house, I will bring it back into use and I'll have a roof over my head. And that's why if you get rid of all the red tape, all the bureaucracy, all the box ticking, and all of the complexities that come into policy making, and just say, why can't that guy have that? Why can't he have it? I don't know why he can't have it. I don't get it.
Sean, we've got about half a minute.
Sorry.